For the past 8 months, we have been doing a lot of work to this Cherokee. Since literally November of 2023. That is when I pulled this Jeep into the garage. It's now July of 2024. What started as installing some Knott's custom fender flares and some armor on the rear here turned into a literal 1-ton swap. We are now in the process of installing these 2003 F350 axles. It's a Dana 60 front and a Sterling 10.5 in the rear. Doing a 1-ton swap like this takes a lot of extra work. It's not as easy as just throwing the axles in. We've got custom long arms, custom steering. We're doing coilovers in the front. We've got custom coilover towers, custom trusses, brackets. We fabricated up some rock sliders. There's just a ton of work that goes into this. Going into this project, I wanted to fabricate 100% of literally everything on the Jeep. From the trusses, the brackets, all of that. And I'd say we've done probably about 85 to 90% of that. We've been fortunate enough to work with some really cool companies that have really sped up this process of 1-ton swap in the Resurrection Cherokee. Over the past couple of weeks though, I mean, we've been doing a ton of work to this, like I said, but I've kind of lost a little bit of motivation. With a project this big, it's pretty tough to see the finish line. I want to finish this Jeep in a reasonable amount of time, and in order to do that, I need some motivation. So to gain back that motivation, I did the only thing that made sense in my head. Ladies and gentlemen, we bought some wheels and tires. It's about time. Finally, we have some wheels and tires for the Resurrection Cherokee. This is something that we didn't need to do now. There's still a lot that has to be done to this Jeep before we need to roll it on some wheels and tires. Getting wheels and tires for a build is the best part. And I was excited to see what this thing was gonna look like once it's on the wheels and tires that I've been thinking about getting for the past couple months. I've had my eyes on these for quite a while. Let's go take a look at them. So since we started this build back in, I believe January was when the first video for the series came out, we had one Nitto. That is what I got. I got just one Nitto. And it actually was this one. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Nittos, and we've got 5 KMC wheels, along with some other goodies up here. So these are just your regular valve stems. I believe I got these ones at O'Reilly's. We're gonna be installing those, but these wheels actually have spots for 2 valve stems, which is what these are for. These are some Apex rapid deflation valve stems. We're gonna be installing these onto each wheel as well. There is a tab on here, and when we remove this cap and release that tab, kind of pull it up, it's gonna deflate the tires very, very quickly. I think online it said something in like 10 to 15 seconds. That's gonna be good for airing down on the trail. And then when we're done with the trail, we can air up with this, or we can use our regular valve stem. So I'll just give you guys a sneak peek. I already have 2 of these wheels mounted. What we're gonna be doing in today's video is mounting the rest of them, along with a few other things, but I'll show you this real quick. So it's a little dark. You can see we got the regular valve stem right there, and then 180 degrees from that, we've got our Apex valve stem. 2 spots for valve stems. Now you don't need to use the Apex valve stem if you don't want to. If you're gonna be going with a KMC wheel, I believe all the KMC wheels have this double valve stem option. If you wanted to, and maybe you wanted to save some money or something, you could just put 2 rubber ones in. I actually didn't know that KMC wheels came with 2 spots for valve stems, so I didn't order the Apex rapid deflators right away. I wanted to get these mounted. So initially, I was gonna put 2 rubbers in each wheel. Now I thought about that for a while, and I figured I might as well do it the right way, so I spent a little bit of money. I believe it was like 140, 150 bucks for 5 of these. Waiting about a week for them to come in and got them installed. That is definitely the right way to do this. So anyways, we've got 2 already done, like I said. I did 1 off camera just because I could not help myself. And then the second one is when I filmed the wheel and tire, what I'm calling a teaser. But today, we're gonna be doing the rest of them. We've got 3 more to do because I have a full-size spare as well. Initially, I thought about not getting a brand new wheel and tire as a spare. I was gonna find a used 40 on Marketplace, and I was gonna just get a Steely for now for the wheel. It's gonna save quite a bit of money because this wheel and tire combo are over $1,000 a piece. But I figured we're gonna be going very far with this Jeep. If I had a problem, say in Washington, we're over here in Colorado. If we had a problem in Washington, I'd have to drive back on a junk spare and with a mismatched wheel. So I just decided to fork over the money and get it over with now. So we're gonna be installing these today, and hopefully by the end of this video, my goal is to pull this Jeep out of the shop, just to get it out into the sunlight for the first time in 8 months. That's if we got enough time though, because we got quite a bit to do. There's still a little bit of work besides mounting the wheels and tires that we have to do. For now, let's get these wheels and tires mounted. These things look so good. I am so excited to get these onto the Jeep. These are the KMC Tank Beadlocks. 17 by 9, and I believe they're 3.5-inch back spacing. I went with these ones mostly because of the color. I think the color is gonna look really good with the forest green on the Cherokee. I found it pretty common when you have a forest green vehicle or maybe a black vehicle, something like that, people will usually choose bronze for the wheels color. I had that thought in my mind for quite a while. I was gonna go with bronze because it looks freaking amazing, especially on the forest green. But I saw these gray wheels with the black ring, and I was in love with them. The actual color of these wheels that KMC calls them is anthracite. Anthracite is a type of coal, so coal is black and sometimes dark gray. So that's where the color of this wheel gets its name. Comes with this big center cap, which we're gonna be removing because we can't use it. Looks pretty cool though, but in the rear, we've got the big full floating hub, and in the front, we're gonna have the locking hub. So these are just gonna get in the way. So to install these, we're gonna be using a 5-gallon bucket, and these are super heavy. I've only installed beadlocks on the 35-inch tires before, and when I installed these, I actually crushed 2 of these buckets. So hopefully we don't do that again, because I think this is one of my last buckets. Actually, I see my brother has some over there, so we might be stealing some of his if we crush this little tiny bucket.
Today, we're actually only going to mount 2 tires. We're not going to be doing the spare. I realized I only have 2 more rubber valve stems, so instead of running out to go get one, we're just not going to worry about that spare for now. We only need to pull this Jeep out of the shop 10 to 15 feet, so we shouldn't need the spare to do that. Anyways, this is wheel and tire setup number 4. It is so easy to mount beadlocks. With a little soapy water, a 5-gallon bucket, and a torque wrench, you can have this done in no time. At this point, there are probably some wondering what I do to balance my beadlocks on my off-road rigs. I do not balance any of my beadlocks. All my rigs can drive down the highway at 80 miles an hour without any shimmying or shaking. Now, I have never run this big of a tire unbalanced, so time will tell if I need to in the future. As of right now, I do not plan on it.
Now the next step to getting these wheels and tires onto the Jeep is we gotta finish these front hubs, what we started last video. Not really what we started, because we really didn't start anything, but I did mention it and the issue that we were having. So if you wanna know exactly why we're doing what we're about to do, go watch last video. It's the U-joint video, and I mentioned in there what we're about to do to these front hubs. So this is one of our front hubs, and what we're gonna be doing is replacing these wheel studs. We're going from 14 millimeter 2.0 to 14 millimeter 1.5. And once again, go check out last video. You'll know exactly why we're doing this. Long story short, we're saving money. So it's actually not a direct fit like I thought it was going into this. This is one of the newer ones. Oh, maybe not so much new anymore. This knurled section is actually a little larger than the ones that came off of it. So you can't tell just by looking at it. You have to get a caliper on there. But this knurled section is actually a little bigger in diameter than this one. Just by like a couple thousandths, enough to where we're gonna have to drill it. Now I did a little bit of research online, and this is the drill bit that we should need, a 39/64 drill bit. What we're gonna do is just drill this hole out right here, and then try to get our new wheel stud in. This is a little smaller, the drill bit is a little smaller in diameter than this wheel stud, so we shouldn't have any problems with a loose fit. We'll put red Loctite in there as well. So let's give it a shot.
I'm drilling these out with a 39/64 drill bit. After looking through some old forums online from people doing the same thing, I came to the conclusion that this was the drill bit size I needed for this job. It's a couple thousand smaller than the 14 millimeter by 1.5 stud we want to install, which is exactly what we need. We want a tight fit so these don't spin or get loose down the road.
Cool, so that went on there really good. Pressed on there nice and tight. I don't think it's gonna be spinning or coming loose in there. We've got some red Loctite on there, so I mean now we're gonna go do the rest of these. The 7 more on this hub, and then we got 8 more to do on that one.
So I've talked about this before and why I don't just buy the correct hubs with the correct studs on them, and it comes down to cost. These hubs cost me $22. New, they would have been $600 plus. We got these hubs earlier this year in the Las Vegas junkyard. They are in good shape, don't worry about that. So in the interest of saving money so I can use it elsewhere on the build, this is the cheapest route. It did cost me $140 to $150 for all these studs, but it sure does beat spending the $600 on new hubs. I will get new hubs eventually, don't get me wrong. My hope is that these old hubs will eventually be the spare hubs that I carry around. But in the interest of keeping the initial cost of this build down, this is the way to go. I could have just gotten different lug nuts for the front hubs with the 14mm by 2.0 thread pitch, but I am one for doing things the right way, and in my opinion, that would just have been the hack way of solving this problem we have. I'm just glad that this worked out as well as it did, and it only took like 30 minutes, probably the quickest thing we've ever done to this Jeep. With how well this is going right now, I have a feeling that we actually might be pulling this Jeep out of the shop today, which is absolutely insane to think. I pulled this Jeep into the shop. The earliest photo evidence I found on my phone, at least, was October 28th, 2023. As of editing this, that is 282 days ago. That is insane. We have a few off-road rigs, but the Green Cherokee has always been our main adventure rig. So it's just crazy to think that we haven't taken it out on the trail in so long. Seeing it outside in the sun will be a big step forward. We've made a lot of progress in the past couple months, so I am more than excited to see this thing outside.
So there's one more thing that we have to do before we can bolt these wheels and tires onto the Jeep and possibly pull it out of the shop. Now, we wouldn't need to do this if we already had our brake rotors, but I don't have those yet. I don't want to go to the parts store because the brake rotors, well, the brake kit I want is an upgraded brake kit. Can't buy it in the store, I have to order it online. And since I want to do this today, going to the parts store to get some just regular brakes is not an option. It cost me quite a bit of money just to go with some other ones. So let me show you exactly what the problem is here. So these are our front hubs. You can see I got it set down inside of the wheel. And right now, you can kind of see right there, they don't sit flush. I can move it around all I want. They do not sit flush in there. Now the reason for that is because we need a brake rotor on here. So this wheel can sit a little higher on here. The wheel is supposed to sit around this lip right here, but it's trying to sit on this lip without the rotor. This lip is too large in diameter for the wheel, which means it's not sitting right. I tried to bolt one of these on and I realized that very quickly. I don't want to go buy rotors like I just said. So we're gonna be making a spacer just for the time being until we get rotors. We're not gonna be driving this thing down the road just yet anyway. So these spacers that we make are only gonna be installed into the Jeep while it's sitting in the shop and when we roll it out. We will not drive down the road with them on there. Here's what I'm thinking, I drew some up. So I took some measurements off of the hub and this is what our spacer is kinda gonna look like. This is an 8x170 bolt pattern and I've got a big piece of 1/4 inch that we should be able to make these out of. I'm thinking we're only gonna need 4 for the front, 2 for the front and 2 for the rear. 1/4 inch may not be thick enough, and if it's not, then we could cut out more spacers or we could possibly stack washers underneath of the spacer just to get a little more thickness, and I'm kind of leaning towards that washer idea so I don't waste more metal because in the long run, this is a waste of metal. We're gonna start by just cutting out 1, see how it looks, and if it works, then we'll cut out 3 more.
Originally, I thought of just stacking a bunch of washers on each stud to gain the clearance we need to clear that lip. I literally went to the hardware store and was picking out washers when I realized I could just make my own spacer. I have this huge sheet of 1/4 inch that's been sitting in the back of the shop that I originally bought for some other stuff in the build. It's gonna be perfect for this. We will still have plenty of the sheet left over, so cutting these out will not be a total waste of material.
So the spacer actually worked out really well. You can see though, it doesn't sit flush with the hub right here. That is because the bottom of the wheel stud is actually a little bigger in diameter. So I think what I'm gonna do, this space is probably a little less than 1/4 inch. I'm gonna cut out little washers out of 1/4 inch with the CNC as well. And I'm gonna probably do 4 on each hub. I'm gonna just stick them right under here. That should actually raise it up a little bit and we should be good to go. So this will be sitting a little higher and you can see the lip right behind here, not this lip, but the one right below it. That's what we're trying to clear. So with this sitting up even higher, we should have no problem. So let's go get those cut out.
Looking back, well, actually like halfway through this whole process of cutting out spacers, I realized I could have just cut out a bunch of these washers to begin with instead of using all of this material to cut out the spacers. We would have for sure used less material. But my thought is that with the spacer, there is more surface area for the wheel to actually sit against versus if we were just to stack these washers. Probably best for the wheel that we're doing it the way we are. I wouldn't want to mar or chew up the mount surface of these wheels whatsoever. So we're gonna continue to do it this way. We still have a few spacers spacers to cut out. These hubs are still gonna come off. I know, I feel like we've installed and removed these 100 times already, but these axle shafts are going to get painted separately from the axle. They're gonna be a different color. So these hubs should only need to come off at least one more time, if all goes well. Also, I didn't show it, but there are a few washers and a snap ring I installed on the end of the axle shaft inside of the hub. They just hold the shaft tight to the hub. On a Dana 30, you actually have like an axle nut. On these bigger axles, on this Dana 60 at least, you have a snap ring. Once I did this, it was time to install the wheel and tire onto this side. And wow, it looks so sweet. This is going to be a mean looking Jeep. From here, I knew this spacer and washer setup is going to work, so I cut out the rest of them, installed them, and installed the 3 other wheels and tires. We are now ready to pull this Jeep out of the shop. And just like that, weight of the Jeep is now on those 4 tires. It has been an incredibly long time since the Jeep's been sitting on its own weight front and rear. The leaf springs are in the back there, and then we got the coilovers set up in the front. And honestly, they are sitting absolutely perfect. In one of the earlier episodes of the Cherokee Resurrection series, we set up those coilovers, and I wasn't sure if the coils on them were actually gonna work. But right now, they're sitting absolutely perfect. Back when I thought that we didn't have the rear set up, we still had jack stands holding up the rear unibody. And the jack stands were sitting pretty far forward on the unibody. They were sitting right before it arched it over for the wheel well. So I think that was dispersing the weight of the Jeep a little weird and causing the front not to have enough weight on it. So my coilovers were not compressing as much as they should have. But right now, they look absolutely amazing. They're sitting 100% perfect. The way I had them built, they're supposed to be 5 inches of shaft showing at ride height, and that's exactly what we got here. So now the next step, let's try to pull this thing out of the shop. I absolutely hate these wheel dollies. I should have spent some more money and bought some better ones, maybe some that aren't from Harbor Freight, but I mean, these do the job. Barely, but I guess they do what they're supposed to. They don't roll all that great. Maybe the Jeep is too heavy for them or something. I don't know. All I know is it's a freaking chore to push this Jeep around. Man, does this Jeep look sweet though. I can't wait until we move on to the bodywork. Well, I can wait because I'm not looking forward to it. But I can't wait to get this Jeep to be all one color again. The Knott's Custom fender flares are gonna be color matched. They're gonna be forest green. Along with that rear armor, I'm gonna sandblast them and then paint them forest green as well. Right now, that rear armor is powder coated. There wasn't an option on the JCR website to get them bare metal. So in the future, I'm gonna be sandblasting those and painting them forest green as well. This Jeep should look fantastic once all that's done. Wow. That was really tough. These things basically do nothing. At least with one person. If I had at least one more person, this probably would have been a lot easier. So now the plan is I'm gonna winch it out with my Jeep. I wanna back that thing up a little bit. I don't know how I'm gonna get it back in here. I mean, I'm not gonna be able to winch it back in because I got a wall right there, but I'll probably just have to push it with the front of my Jeep. That's really my only option. When we go back in with this, we're gonna put it in like this. I'm probably gonna put it back on the dollies, turn it around, and instead of the front of it facing this way, I think the rear end is gonna be facing this way. At least that's what I'm thinking right now, because next video we're gonna be working on the rear suspension back here. So I kinda wanna have more room over here. Good part of my shop back. Yeah, it's still really messy though. I need like a shed or a small building to put all this stuff in. I got my rooftop tent, a bunch of carpentry tools, I guess. We got a bunch of axles. I got a bunch of wood. Like this, none of this should be in here, but I don't really have much other place to put it. Anyways, let's get to winching.
Oh, I got too comfortable with it and we had a crash. But thankfully, the two stingers, I guess, bull bar and stinger touched. Didn't hit my light over there. But wow, that went very easily. Wow. Look at the difference here. That thing, this thing is crazy. Got it sitting on its own weight out here, not in the sun, under the shade. Wow, that looks so good. Oh, I wish it was dryable. This thing is so cool. So here's it next to my Jeep, my daily. This is my 1998 Jeep Cherokee. This is on 35s, pretty worn 35s. They still got probably another season left in them. Just the tail end of this season. And next to some brand new 40s. So quite the difference right there. And this is how far out that tire sticks out from that fender. This tire is just about most of the 3/4 of the way out of the fender. So these Knott's Custom fender flares are definitely a must for this. If we didn't have them, it would look really cool, but yeah, I don't think the cops would like that. Not that they care around here, but looks freaking awesome. The rear is about the same, probably about halfway sticking out. Same over there, obviously. This is one big Jeep now, though. Definitely an overkill overlander, but that's what I'm going for. Now I remember when I was building this Jeep around, I think 5 years ago or so, I got to this, like this portion of the build. It was probably around the same amount of progress. And I saw underneath here, well, underneath there, and I was like, wow, this looks so cool under here with the axle, with the truss and whatnot. And that's when I decided to put a fuel cell inside of it. So this Jeep doesn't have the stock gas tank under there. It's got a fuel cell, well, it's got the stock, I say fuel cell, it's got the stock fuel tank in the back. Got some special brackets and I strapped it to the back in there. So now I'm at like the same point here where I'm thinking the same thing, but I don't think we're gonna go that route. I'm gonna be sticking the stock tank back in here and we'll probably be making a skid plate for it down the road. I'm not gonna have room for a fuel cell back here because we're actually gonna be getting rid of this bumper. Or, I don't know, we're gonna be doing something, but this bumper is not gonna be involved with the build. I think right now my thought is putting the 40 in the back there, just laying down. Once we do the cage, I wanna build like a rack back there. And then we're gonna do like a low profile bumper back here. Like I think a tube bumper would be really, really cool. But that's my thought process right now. It'll probably change down the road. I say all that, but a giant 40 right here in the middle back here would look incredibly cool. So I don't know, we'll see. We'll see when we get to that point. Looks really good now though.
How do I get in?
It's a little taller.
I know, I wish the seat was in it so I could try like getting into it. That would have been cool.
Yeah, there's a bunch of junk in there. Yeah, you shouldn't slam that.
Sorry. Makes your Jeep look small.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wide.
Yeah, it's
I'm not
huge.
gonna fit in a parking space.
Barely.
How wide it looks, though, it makes it seem less tall.
Yeah. It is pretty tall, though.
Yeah, no, it's tall, but since it's also wide, it looks shorter. She ain't stock anymore.
Makes my Jeep look stock.
It does make your Jeep look stock. And then I'll see an actual stock Jeep while I'm like out and about.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, never mind.
Pretty cool.
We're just crazy. How are the dogs gonna get in? I'm gonna have to pick up every single one of them.
Literally.
They used to barely be able to jump into it before.
I think when we don't have this bumper, we can, we'll just be able to open that pretty easily and load them up.
So when's it gonna be done?
I don't know. If we weren't making YouTube videos out of it, then it probably would have already been done.
You say we as if you're, I'm helping you. It's coming along.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna keep this one short and sweet for y'all. The Jeep is outside right now. I'm gonna get ready to pull back in here in a few minutes. I'm just gonna clean up a little first. But we're gonna end this video before I do that because that's just boring stuff. Y'all saw me pull it out. I don't think you need to see me pull it back in. This video and the progress that we made this video was a huge milestone for this build. We've been going at this build very hard for about 8 months. The series has been out for 7 months, but I've been going at it for about 8 to 9 months. It has been quite a while. And after today's video, I can finally see the finish line. There are still gonna be plenty of parts of the series, don't get me wrong, but we're closing in on the end, I think. Now let me tell you all my thought process for the next couple videos and the future of the build. Next video, at least I hope so, I'm gonna be working on the rear suspension. I need to get that dialed in a little bit better before we can move on to some other things. After that, we're gonna be finishing up the both sides and the rock sliders. Once again, that is the hope at least. I know those both sides are something that a lot of people wanna see and I really wanna get to it sooner than later. Plus I'm very excited because it's like the last big thing on this Jeep that needs to be done. If we weren't doing the rock sliders and both sides, we probably would be doing bodywork by now. And bodywork is the last step to this build. After the both sides, we're gonna be moving on to the front of the Jeep. That front suspension is pretty dialed in, that front axle as well, but I need to finish those coilover towers. They are basically done. I need to flex out the Jeep, make sure everything is still gonna work, and then I need to finish, I think there's a front plate that needs to be done, then I have to weld that all together. That is probably gonna take a while. There's gonna be a lot of welding involved with that. And then after that, we'll probably do the dreaded bodywork. I gotta do a lot of bodywork for those Knott's Custom fender flares. I still have to box in some of that rear quarter panel. I'm gonna have to add some sheet metal and whatnot, and I'm just not looking forward to that. It's something I really do not enjoy doing. But I'm gonna take my time and do a good job with it. Along with that, we're gonna be painting some parts of the Jeep. I'm not gonna be giving this Jeep a whole paint job. We're just gonna be doing like the rear quarter panel armor. We're gonna, under the quarter panel armor, we're gonna be painting the actual Jeep too, just because it's a little rough under there right now. I'm gonna be painting the front fenders as well. I painted them about 3 years ago. I tried my hardest and they look good from a distance, but they don't look all that great up close. So I'm hopefully gonna have one of my buddies help me out with all that painting so it can come out really, really good. This Jeep is going to get beat up on the trail, so I'm not gonna worry too much about like painting the whole Jeep. I don't wanna paint the whole Jeep. I don't wanna do a whole paint job. It's just gonna get beat up on the trail. I already know it. And then after that, I mean, we gotta do drive lines, we gotta do brakes, we still have to do bump stops and limit straps. I'm gonna have to do rear shocks, but we're gonna wait on that. That's gonna be one of the last things. We gotta pull out all of that suspension and paint everything. We're gonna paint the underside of the Jeep, probably do some touching up on the inside on the floor. There is a ton of work that needs to be done, but the work is slowly dwindling. I hope you all are excited as I am to finally see this Jeep coming together. Just those wheels and tires, they like really bring the look of the Jeep together. I am extremely happy that I finally decided to go get those. I could have waited to literally the last day of this build to put those wheels and tires on, but you know, like I said, I just decided that now was the time. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. I told you all I was gonna keep this one short and simple. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video and if you've enjoyed some of the other videos in the series, then consider subscribing. There's about like 19 other videos a part of this series that you can go watch. We are documenting everything on this Jeep build, the Resurrection Cherokee. Come to think of it, this YouTube thing takes a lot of time. If I wasn't filming literally everything on this build, this Jeep would probably be done by now. So please go watch the other videos. And consider subscribing. We're trying to reach 4,500 subscribers by the end of 2024. And so far, we're right on track. One more thing, we got a big announcement coming up. I'm extremely excited about it. And hopefully, I'll be able to tell you all what it is in the next video. Until then, I hope you all enjoy your week. I'll see you on the trail, and I'll see you next time.